Good morning, good afternoon, depending upon where you're sitting. Welcome to our Altos webinar. I'm super excited today to chat with you about our market reports. I'm going to go ahead and let folks continue to join. I appreciate you spending the time today to learn a little bit more about Altos. Whether you're brand new to this format or you've attended the last couple that we've had, just to let you know that we'll be having these every other week so that you can hopefully attend and get some little bits of information every single time that you can apply to your business and find greater success with your subscription. If you have a freemium account, even better, you can see what is available to you in other subscription levels. And so I'll kind of discuss those a little bit. When you signed up today, you were asked to provide a question if you had one. And I really did appreciate all the questions. And there were some consistencies there. So hopefully by the end of this session, you'll have a good guess or good idea to those answers. In worst case scenario, I'm going to share with you some ways to get the answers that you need, because we're definitely here to help. Okay. All right. So first things first, we only have a half an hour. If you have participated in my webinars before, you know that I am Chatty Cathy and I have a lot of information to provide. My name is Jessica Lucke and I am the Director of Client Success at Altos Research. I've been working with Altos for 16 years, which means I'm super passionate about what it is that I do and what it is that we provide. What you should be able to see at this time is our Altos Market Report Explainer. Okay, and so this is something all of you have access to, and I'm going to share where you can find it. It is such a great tool, particularly when talking about those market reports. Okay, and so this is that report explainer. And where do you find it? So some of the housekeeping will be, where do you go to get additional information? I want to be able to answer all of your questions, but we are limited in time, right? But we do want to help. And this tool here we will utilize when going through the report. But where do you find it so that after the session, you can utilize it as well? This is our platform. Okay, so whether you have a freemium account, a professional account, or even an advanced account, this is the platform. This is the landing page that you have when you log into your account. A freemium has one, and others follow suit with additional locations. All of you have the tabs along the top. Select Knowledge Base, and you'll find our video library. Okay, you'll get used to my voice. Or you have what's called product guides. And at this time, when you select View Guides, you will find the report explainer. When you click on it, it looks just like this. It is a PDF. Okay, and this PDF provides you a high-level overview of the components that make up the report. So if the report is brand new to you and you cannot wait to get these in front of your clients, don't wait until you feel you've got this all dialed in and understood, right? It takes practice. This is your practice. Use these as your bullets as you're going through the report with your clients. Okay, and then the second page is what I consider the gold. The gold of the definitions of all of the statistics and why we care. All of these are at your fingertips. So we don't want you to feel like, hey, here's your market report, go get them, right? You have a guide here that will assist you in presenting it, but also be able to understand the statistics. And whether you're new to the statistics, I will tell you, your buyers and sellers are new to the statistics, right? And because of that, they're going to be weary of asking any questions of what those statistics might mean. Nobody really wants to admit that they don't know, so provide this. So if you're going to share the report with a client, be sure to follow up or provide this at the same time. It's a PDF, you download it, you print it, easy peasy, okay? So again, that is a one-stop shop for your knowledge, is of course the knowledge base, the videos, and the product guide. You're always welcome to book your own one-on-one as well. So if you have questions that are unique to your business, awesome, we'd love to hear from you. Now, in addition to that, if you click on your name up at the right, You can contact support and submit your question in that way. In addition to that, you can come down here and use our new live chat. And when we have someone available, they can chat with you immediately. Okay. So definitely take advantage of all of those things. All right. So we are going to dive into the reports. And again, we've got everyone on this call, whether you are a freemium pro subscriber or an advanced subscriber, right? And so one of the most common questions was, how do I pull my zip code? Well, that's within the platform for the most part. If you're a freemium subscriber, you likely already have that one report. And you're welcome to check out the various different tiers. We've got Lite, which allows you to have the 5 reports. And then we have other tiers as well that you can check out. In fact, we have a free 14-day trial of our professional level, which provides you up to 10 locations. And when you do that, you have the opportunity to not look at just citywide. So before we dive into the reports, it's really important to understand what is it that we're providing, right? And so that's going to be a very important thing. So if there's one thing that you take away today is to understand, what data are we providing? What makes us stand out over other market reports? Well, remember that the question that we want to answer is, how's the market today? How's the market right now? How would we go about answering that question? A lot of market reports out there are monthly reports. A lot of reports out there provide sold data. I'm not suggesting that either one of those are wrong or not a great resource. They are, but they answer a different question. They're answering the question, how was the market when a property sold? That's not the question that we want to answer. We want to answer the question, how's the market right now? In order for us to do that, we focus on the 100% active market. Okay, what does that mean? That means all of the data within our reports is based on list. We track, so the best way to think about it is that we track list to pending. So the term absorbed for us is pending. Okay, so really important to understand that. So all of the data within our reports is list, right? So not only that, in order for us to say, hey, how's the market right now? We have to update these reports on a more regular basis than just monthly. So we do that weekly. So where Altos really stands apart is in how it translates this data into something meaningful. Tools like the Market Action Index here simplify the complex market conditions into a single, easy to read number. Here is 35. Rather than sorting through multiple MLS fields, clients can quickly understand whether the market favors the buyer or the seller and how the balance is shifting. Combined with the weekly updates and built-in trend lines, which you'll see here, Altos makes it easier to not just see what's happening right now, but to understand where the market is going. And then you'll hear me talk about that a lot. Key leading indicators. It's hard to know where you're going if you don't know where you've been, but you got to be able to see where it's headed. Okay. So the power of Altos reports lies in your capacity to provide clients with standardized, easy to read market insights on a consistent basis. So one of the questions that came in was, hey, can I distribute these reports on a regular basis? Absolutely. With the professional level or above, you have the ability to use our email functionality built into the platform. You decide the frequency, but weekly is obviously where it's at, right? This weekly rhythm allows you to spot short-term movements and long-term trends that monthly reports simply miss, okay? So what do? Every week, Altos completes a rigorous cycle of capturing the data, stopping that data process, and processing the numbers over the weekend and publishing every Sunday afternoon. That means you have fresh content week after week. And that's what's super powerful. Okay. So that's what makes these reports so great, is that not only do they answer the question, is it a buyer's market or a seller's market, and how much so? We take the complex data, put it into an easy to understand format so that you can present it week after week to your clients. You're the rock star, right? A lot of folks over the 16 years I've been working with Altus, I've learned they sit at their desk trying to do the same thing. That's a lot of time trying to put it into a format that people are going to understand. And my big joke is, hey, if I were to walk out on the street and say, do you want to look at some market statistics? Not everybody gets excited about it, right? It's market statistics. So we present it in a way where people can absorb the way they want to. Okay. So if you look at this, you'll see that we provide the numbers for our data driven folks. I like to call them the engineers. I'm a much more visual person. I appreciate the visual cues throughout the report. Okay. And then some folks are like, hard pass on all of it. We provide narrative that talks specifically about what's happening in the report. So there's a little bit of something for everyone. And today we're going to do a little bit of a focus on sellers, okay? Because I want to be able to provide you a use case out the gate so that you can take this today and run, all right? And use it in your business. Now, it's important again to understand the information. So let's take a look. At a high level, the report is broken down into thirds. You will see here is our first third. This answers the question, how's the market? Is it a buyer's market or seller's market, and how much so for the area of interest? I say the summary, right? The second section provides historical data. You'll see along the timeline here that you have 5 years worth of data. This allows you to see seasonality, weird tweaks that happen throughout the time, right? Good old COVID was crazy, right? You'll see it. And so you've got your historical data here. Like I mentioned, you have your weekly, but you also have your trend. And the trend allows you to kind of gauge where you're headed without the crazy noise. Okay. And then the third part, and we had questions about this, is diving in deeper, right? If we're looking at Dallas, holy smokes, that's pretty big. And I live in the San Francisco Bay Area. So if someone said, hey, how's the market in San Francisco? I'd be, well, what part? You got crazy town and high end, right? So they behave differently in the market, which we will talk about. Now, this, again, is the summary, which means of all active inventory, this is the median. Well, there's more expensive and less expensive, i.e. that's what median represents. So how can you use this report if you're only dealing with the luxury market? Or maybe you've got a client who has a pretty tight budget. And this tells them a story that maybe it's not possible. Let's check it out. You scroll down and the segments here will take the inventory, listing it from most expensive to least expensive, and then dividing it by 4. So each segment has the same amount of inventory. It just so happens that the top segment represents the most expensive 25% of properties. I always say that's the luxury market, okay? And then the bottom is the least expensive 25% of properties. Now, this is actually pretty crazy when you look at it, because the median for that most expensive is nearly 1.8 and the bottom is 245. That's a huge swing. The nature of the market's going to differ between the two, right? Important note. And so this allows you to help set expectations, both on what they qualify for as far as size is concerned, but also how quickly is that particular price point moving. And all of it is important, whether you're talking to a buyer or a seller. Okay. So going up to the top, you'll notice that we're dealing with Dallas, Texas, no mention of a zip code. That's because that's taking into account all active inventory for every zip code within Dallas, broad. You'll see that I also pulled up this one here. This is Uptown. I'm from California, but I just looked it up and this is like Uptown. So you might have a question about, hey, do you drill down any further than a zip code, or do you have reports for a community or a subdivision? The short answer is no, right? We go citywide, zip code specific. But we know that this one, well, I do because I looked at it, this particular zip code is considered Uptown, which is moderate. Now, you'll see that the inventory went from 2,700 to 30. And then one of you questioned, hey, is this all of the inventory or is it separated? It's separated. This link is all inclusive, but you'll notice that you can click on single family tab. So this 30 represents just single family homes. Click on condos and actually represents condos and townhouses. Okay, because it's a single unit shared wall. We don't have multiplex or fourplexes, things like that. It has to be selling as a single unit, but a shared wall to be qualifying for condo property. And you'll see that Uptown is more condos available than single family homes. So you probably would stay here. But it's really cool to be able to teeter between the two because the market can be different. Okay. So super important. We do have data for both. And it's really important to dive down into zip code. This zip code, now look at the price here versus the next one. Significantly different. And this is condos. If we go to single family homes, that is quite different price point than citywide, right? So again, you've got your luxury market. Make sure that you go down to the zip code so that you can get the clearest possible view as to the nature of the market for what your clients are most interested in. And it will differ, okay? And you click between single family home and condos and you will see that it heats up a little bit, okay? So super important to understand how important those zip codes are. Now, when we think listing presentation, of course, you want to get as specific as possible. So not only you're going to go down to the zip code, you're going to go down to the actual price point you expect to list the home for, okay? And you're going to focus on that segment. Now, going back to Dallas, Texas here. So this first segment here talks about, is it a buyer's market or a seller's market? So we introduced the market action index. What the heck is that? Don't take it so critically to know the ins and outs. We're not going to be able to provide that. Why? Because it is our own proprietary algorithm. That's just a fancy term for private equation. The long story short, it is a series of supply and demand statistics tied up in a bow. And just like any equation, there's a weighted end result. Thank God we had a data team who does all the math for us and has determined that when the result of that equation is 30, you'll see that white line, that represents a balanced market. When the result is greater than 30, it favors the seller. When it's less than 30, it favors the buyer. Okay? So at a glance, I can see, slight seller's market. It tells me so. Go to the next one. Okay? Barely. Now this, I would almost say it's a balanced market. And then the next one, scroll up. Slight seller's advantage. So at a glance, you can continually pull up reports and get access to the answer to that question like that. And if this answers the question, how's the market? This answers the question, why? Okay. Now this is awesome because it's also saying, hey, this first layer with color is representing now at 35. The gray is a running 30 days back, right? So what this is saying is there's no real change since this time last month at a glance, okay? So we're gonna draw our attention to the real-time market profile and we have our statistics here. And again, we've got our this report explainer, okay? So going through that will be really important, but I'm gonna draw your attention to two leading indicators of change. One of the great things about the reports is that it's pretty. One of the difficult things about the report is it's pretty. You want to draw attention to what they should be looking at so that they don't just open it and say, oh, cool, and go on with their day. What specifically should they be looking at? What specifically should you be looking at? And we're going to tailor it a little bit for sellers, right? So median list price, this is the latest information. And with all of these data points, it's the latest. You want to be able to see where we've been to know where we're going. Because if I just said, hey, this is the number, is that good or is that bad? So we have 13 weeks to look back. So 13 weeks ago, towards the end of April, it was not much different. So although you've seen some uptick, in reality, it's pretty consistently the same, okay? Price per square foot, we get that. And then you have average days on market versus median days on market. We want to focus on that median. And when you see a big gap between the two, there are still pieces of inventory out there, okay? So that is your days on market, but price decreased. And I'm going to share with you how to read this statistic because it comes up all the time. And it's being misunderstood. That's the bigger thing. 46%. 46% price decrease. What this is saying is of the active inventory, what is the percentage of that inventory that's had to take some sort of a reduction since being put on the market? Okay. It's not, hey, this week 46% of the inventory took a price reduction. It's not that. It's that you'll see that it's ticking up. Okay. So down here 3 months ago it was 39 and it's been slowly ticking up. Now, this is a key leading indicator of change. I can prove it because as this goes up, the heat of the market has been going down. What's really important about this statistic is that you know and you make sure your clients know what is typical. And so if we go back to our document and we scroll down, you're going to want to highlight this segment because it states 35% is considered normal for price decreases. So when you go back to the report, instead of not knowing what this means, you now know that this is a little bit high. And therefore, we've seen a cooling effect in the market. How does this benefit you with a seller? Okay. I will say one of the biggest things about working with sellers is removing the emotion. I've been there. I've done that actually as a home seller myself, and I was probably a pain in the rear. I was very emotional about it. Okay. And it was really important to me to find the right family. I really didn't care about all the other things. And you'll have folks who are really demanding as far as what should they list their home for, right? What is the right price point? And they're going to be combative. So how can you remove the emotion? You follow the data. You engage them to understand how the market's behaving so that you make those decisions together and not because you're saying so and creating any type of angst, right? And so if I were looking at this report and I'm seeing 46, you would say to your seller or potential seller, hey, listen, of the active inventory, I'm noticing that 46% of that inventory has had to take a price reduction. We want to make sure that we understand this and we want to try and not have to participate in it. Now, that's going to be up to the market, but this also means we need to be strategic in our pricing. So let's take a look further at the data so that we can make the best choice moving forward. And that's what this is all about, is getting them on board, getting them engaged with understanding the market so that they feel comfortable throughout the whole process and there are no finger pointing. Because what if this continued to escalate and their house is on the market and you have to come back together and talk about the price of their home? If you've kept them engaged week after week, it's not going to be a shock and awe moment. There's not going to be any finger pointing. It's not your fault. It's because the market suggested it. Okay? Because the market is indicating that it is an important step to take. And that alone is worth using these reports for. Okay? So this price decrease is so important when it comes to working with sellers. And in general, the report allows you to attempt at least to remove the emotion of selling their home. Well, I spent 100 grand on my kitchen. I need to make sure I get that back. Well, you and I know that that's not how we look at it. But how can you convince them? Follow the data. Okay. And so that's what makes these really important. The other key leading indicator of change is the relisted. And it's important to understand why it's important when it comes to our data. We focus on list to pending. Okay. And because we focus on list to pending, we all know that there's all kinds of shenanigans that happen after pending, right? Things fall out of escrow, buyers back out of contracts, those types of things. And that's called muddy. When things start getting murky or muddy, things start to increase as far as the frequency of the falling out of escrow or backing out of contracts. And so what we're looking for here is a steep increase in a short period of time, right? Well, look, I mean, this is a pretty quick uptick, which could be contributing to the cooling effect, okay? But is 12% outlandish? Well, let's go take a look at our chart here. You look, percent relisted, 10% or less is typical. Okay, so 12, not yet too concerning, but man, that's a pretty steep increase. What happens next week if it's 14 and then 16? Aha, continued cooling effect, all right? So hopefully that's helpful. Both of those are really good indicators of change that you can say to your clients, hey, listen, I'm going to send this report to you every week. I want you to pay special attention to these two things, okay? All right. So again, summary, 35, what is that? Slight seller's market. Go up here, it was higher, but not much. So this looks a little bit more dramatic, okay? Back here, it was pretty much the same, right? We just don't put the decimal. Now, go on to our historical data. That's what it is. We have our 7-day, which is that update week after week. Of course, it's going to be noisy, so we want to be able to provide a trend. This is something that your MLS doesn't do, right? Neither. But now you have a chart that represents, hey, not only the 7-day, but also the trend. And now the trend is indicating that, hey, prices are leveled out. Why have the 7-day? The 7-day is super important. Again, it's a leading indicator of change. You will see the momentum of change in that 7-day before the trend kicks in. How do I know? Prices are actually decreasing. They're not leveling out. Okay. You are in the know ahead of time before the trend kicks in. It's kind of like fashion, right? You don't want to be late to the party. So this is important. You can change the statistic if you'd like and watch it. Okay. You can turn things off from the key. You can go to the market action index and talk to your seller about what was and what is now. This is nice and calm. This is all COVID crazy, okay? And so that is important. So be aware that that exists too, okay? Now, you also have the segments, and I'm a huge advocate for segments, so I don't want to leave it out. This, again, is super important, and there's 2 areas to review it. Okay. Now, one I found that was super fascinating that I'm going to utilize is our luxury market condos. Okay. Same concept, answers the question, how's the market? This is the why. Here's our historical data. But the segments are unique in the sense of what is glaringly obvious. We here are taking the active inventory, listing it from most expensive to least expensive, and then dividing it by 4. Words. But most expensive 25% versus least expensive 25%. Huge swing in the two. Okay. This helps set expectations. You got a seller. Where do they fall in this segment? Highlight it. You got a buyer who is like, hey, I want to live here so bad, but I want to live here so bad, but my max is 800,000. Okay. What can I expect for my money? Well, we're looking at condos, so this is going to be the segment. About 15 to 1,600 square feet, 2-bedroom, 2.5 bath, 23-year-old condo. Okay, new listings that have come onto the market since the previous capture, those who are no longer available, and then days on market from list to pending here. Now, what is glaringly obvious? Which price point is in the greatest demand? Right here. This is gold. Why? Because it tells you a different story than what is being told here. And it is really important, whether you're dealing with a buyer or seller. So if you've attended my open house one, we talked about this, right? Super important. Highlight that segment and talk about it. Use the chart by selecting the market segments and then focusing on what segment you are interested in, okay? So you decide. So if you want to do that upper, okay, you can. So you can decide and you can compare, okay? And you can go through these statistics as well. Really, really important. All right, so hopefully this is helpful as far as understanding the report at this level, right? Remember, this is going to be your best friend. So if you're gonna do a listing presentation, this is what you're gonna do. You're gonna take this, you're gonna download it, you're gonna print it, okay? Then here, I printed out the report. And so this is going to be something that is unique for those who are on a paid subscription. It is awesome. This is what it looks like. Okay. So when you go up to share and convert it to a full report PDF, this is what it looks like. You download it, you print it, and you bring it to every listing presentation. It extracts all of the data from the online report, the narrative for the online report, all of it, and creates a 6-page report. Okay. Notice something that is important, the branding. The branding is going to be a huge component. So just so you're aware, back under your platform, your number one thing to do when you have a paid subscription is to click on your name, choose my profile, and set up your branding. Okay. All right. So I'm going to go ahead and check out some of the questions that are in the QA. That means if you've gotten what you've needed from this, I hope that you're taking away some good nuggets of information. Okay. If you have additional questions and we don't get to them, don't forget the knowledge base. Don't forget the live chat, and don't forget to reach out to support. You also have the ability to set up a one-on-one. Okay. All right. So I'm going to go check out here. And if you want to take off, that's fine. If you want to stay and see what the questions are, we can do that too. Okay. So I'm going to go back to the days on market. All right. So days on market, I'm going to give some more explanation about this, because why is one so high and one isn't? Okay. So average days on market versus median days on market. This is going to take into account all active inventory, all of it, stale pieces of inventory, right? All those that have been on the market. So, and how long they have been sitting on the market. One of the things to remember is we focus on the active market. Okay. So that active market, when it goes pending and then falls out of escrow, it gets relisted. We don't start from one, we start where we left off. So the number can be a bit bigger than what you would expect. But average days on market is always going to be more inflated because no matter where we look, there is stale pieces of inventory. Whereas median days on market is right smack in the middle. You're still dealing with some stale inventory, so don't get me wrong, but it's smack in the middle. And that's what you want to focus on, is the median days on market. But one of the bigger things is the fact that we don't start over, we continue to count where we left off. And it is from list to pending. Okay? All right. Let's see here. All right. Can you have multiple zip codes? That's a great question because we've got it twice. So hopefully we can kill two birds with one stone. So you notice that we have citywide and zip code specific. Can we combine a couple of zip codes that represent maybe a community? I have the same issue. And the answer is no. Right now, it's either citywide or zip code specific, and then drill down into the segments. We don't pull together data from different zip codes to create a unique report at this time. Okay. And so one of the questions was about whether or not we break it down into single family and condos. We've covered that, right? Point brackets, we've covered that. Those are the segments based on inventory, not price point, but still we break it down. And yes, you can, if you have a paid subscription, pro or advanced, you can copy embed code and embed this content onto your website. It's one of the great features. Okay. And again, yes, combining is not possible at this time. And pricing can be, there is a pricing page. I believe there's a button or a link on the meeting today that you can find, or you can drop it in the chat, and we have our expert Jeff manning that, who can provide that information. Okay, so the last thing I'm going to take is the most common question is pulling your own zip code, right? So premium means one free report. So if you've got a zip code, great. If you've got a city, that's really what you've got. And I would encourage you to give either light or professional a try. If you skip and go to professional, I will say one of the best features at this time is for professional and for advanced is the search functionality. Notice I'm in Dallas here, okay? I live in 95032. This is my zip code. This search functionality really allows you to gain access to all of the areas that we capture. But in your account, it's worth mentioning that if you're building your account, you've got your light and you've got your professional, you're going to go click on add report. And both are going to use this first tab. Okay. Now, if you're going to add a state, that means you get every report for that state. You can add them as you wish. using the tabs zips and cities, counties, and regions. Okay. But those are the two ways. If you've got a freemium, you need to check out the different subscription levels. But that's how you do it. You can either add it to your account or you can use the search function if you're in a pro or advanced. Okay. All right. So that's all we have time for today. We did go over a little bit, but I really appreciate you guys spending the time. Again, be sure to go to the knowledge base, get access if you don't already know or have looked at it, get the product guide. The video library, there's things like contacts, adding contacts for those who have that particular subscription package and campaigns. So for those of you who are in a freemium account, just be aware that we do have the email functionality that allows you to distribute these reports to all of your clients. You have integrations with CRMs if you want to do that. So there are lots of things to explore. Your best bet if you are in a freemium is to take advantage of the 14-day trial of Pro so that you can use all of the features and then determine where you want to sit after that 14 days. Okay? But again, it's a pleasure to share this information with you. I hope you found that it was valuable, and I look forward to you attending future webinars. Our next webinar in 2 weeks, we'll be talking about the platform itself. Okay, so if you want to learn about navigating that platform, don't forget to sign up. Take care.